Welcome back and thank you everyone for listening to Weeknight Mysteries podcast. My name is Yuras. I'm here with my co-host Rain.
Hello, everyone. Rain here. How are you today, yours?
I'm good. How are you?
Completely fine.
Today we want to talk about a case about three missing women from Springfield, Missouri. This case is otherwise known as the Springfield Tree. Have you ever heard about this one?
No, not at all. I have no idea what this is about.
So I will walk you through the information of this case, and please stop me at any point if you want me to clarify something, because I'll try my best to kind of tell the story here, and we could stop at any time and just try to dissect some information from this story.
Of course.
The Springfield Tree consists of 18-year-old Stacy McCall, 19-year-old Suzanne Streeter, and her mother, Suzanne's mother, 47-year-old Sherrill Levitt. They all went missing from Sherrill's home in Springfield, Missouri on June 7th back in 1992. And we have an image here of the three women. I'm going to be showing this on the YouTube channel. We have Sherrill, Susie, and Stacy. They seemed like, just your everyday regular women living their lives in Springfield, Missouri, right? Anything that jumps out to you?
Immediate question. Are they somehow all related to each other?
Right. So Stacy and Suzanne graduated from the same high school, the Kickapoo High School in Springfield. And they graduated on the same day, on Sunday, June 6th, back in 1992. So on the same day that they actually went missing from. The two women used to be close friends during grade school, but later they drifted apart. Stacy was working as a local model, and she was hanging out with the quote-unquote goofy group of kids, while Suzanne was reportedly a popular girl in the city, and she was dating a quote-unquote bad boy. So essentially, they were close friends during their earlier years in grade school, but eventually they drifted apart. However, just hours after graduating from high school, both women actually attended the same graduation party. After the party, the girls planned to drive to Brandon, Missouri, which is about an hour away, and they would go to a water park in the morning. Stacy called her mom, Janice, at 10:30 p.m. from one of the parties that the two girls were attending, the graduation parties. And Stacy told her mother that they will not be going to Brandon that night, which Stacy's mother, Janice, thought was a good idea because she didn't want them to drive to another town an hour away during night. It's, potentially a very dangerous predicament. Instead, what Stacy told her mother was that they all decided to go to a sleepover at another classmate's house, and they would go to the water park in Brandon, Missouri the next morning, which is a more rational thing to do, right?
Yeah, sounds logical so far. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Exactly. So Stacy promised to call her mother in the morning before heading to that water park. Sometime after midnight, the two girls, Suzanne and Stacy, their plans had changed one more time because when they went to that classmate's house for the sleepover, there was a ton of people there. And they decided it's too much, too many people here. So Suzanne suggested to Stacy to go back to her place because it was just her and her mother living in that house. And they could sleep there. And in the morning, they would go back. Well, they would all meet up with their friends and they would go to the water park. Suzanne's home is at 1717 East Delmar Street in Missouri. So the girls left the sleepover at around 2 a.m. and police believe that they probably reached Suzanne's home 15 minutes later. This is where the mystery begins. We have the house that Suzanne was living in. So anything that jumps out to you?
No, so far
pictures?
nothing at all. Everything seems to be ordinary, normal. Even the house looks normal. There's literally nothing. What do you think so far?
So far, there is no mystery here, but
Yeah.
strange things will start happening in this case. shortly. So, as you can see, this is a house. It has this kind of a strange circular driveway. If you could kind of take a look at the satellite view image that I have here for us. And that driveway is going to play a role in the case in a little bit. Another thing to mention, well, this is Sherrill's house, Suzanne's mother's house. So Suzanne and Sherrill, from what I was able to understand, they were the only people living in this house. And Sherrill had recently bought this house. I think Sherrill had divorced her husband, her previous husband, and she was living alone now with her daughter, Suzanne, in this house that she recently had purchased. Suzanne's mother, on the other hand, Sherrill, was last heard from at approximately 11:15 p.m. that evening, when she had spoken with a friend on the phone. She was talking about how she wanted to paint a wardrobe inside of her home. She had a wardrobe, she probably wanted to repaint it. So just probably doing some regular activities. By the way, all of this is happening on a Sunday. Just wanted to kind of emphasize the day of the week. So the next morning, Suzanne's friends called the house to find out when they were leaving for the water park, which is normal, right? You would just call the house, try to see when are we meeting up, where are we meeting up to go to the water park. Now, this friend got the answering machine instead of actually someone picking up the phone, so she decided to leave a message and hung up and waited for Suzanne to call her back. But Suzanne never called her back. Stacy's mother, Janice, called the house multiple times, in total leaving 3 voice messages. Eventually, multiple people made their way to the house because no one could get a hold of Stacy and Suzanne. Because, the predicament so far is that Stacy and Suzanne would sleep over at Suzanne's house, and in the morning, they would meet up with their high school friends, and they would go to a water park.
It's pretty odd. Where's Sherrill in this?
Sherrill was also home.
Okay. So all 3 of them are home.
All 3 of them are supposed to be home at this point. As I've mentioned previously, Sherrill was last heard from 11 p.m., 11:15 p.m. when she talked to a friend. And Stacy and Suzanne, police believe, probably arrived at Suzanne's place a little bit past 2 a.m. in the morning, after that sleepover went not according to plan. So the first thing that kind of jumped to some people when they arrived at the house, because there's now a bunch of people at the house and they're all looking for these women. All 3 women's cars were parked in the circular driveway of the parking lot. However, this was quite strange since Suzanne would usually park in the carport of the house in a very specific location, and she would not usually park alongside the circular driveway. And some friends instantly thought that perhaps someone else had parked in that driveway of the house the night before, taking Suzanne's favorite parking spot. And we have an image here, and this is apparently a real crime scene image from Crime Watch Daily. This is the only place I was able to find this image, but as you can see, there are 3 cars lined up at the driveway. And Suzanne would usually park her car in that, I think, little garage-looking structure. But this time, she did not park there. And she would park it religiously, like she would always park it there. So some friends immediately thought that maybe another car that night was parked in that location, almost seeming like someone else other than just Sherrill was home at that point.
Could it also be the fact that it was 2 a.m. and maybe Sherrill and Stacy were both, Susie and Stacy were both, Suzanne and Stacy, sorry for the name confusion, were just both a little too tired to actually bother parking it in a proper way, and they were probably let's just park it properly in the morning, or since we're leaving in the morning anyways, it's probably convenient to just park it by the circular driveway.
I think that's a possibility. I don't see why that would not be a possibility. So it's also quite hard for me to understand, but I am betting and I'm guessing that both Suzanne and Stacy were driving their own cars that night.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You know, that's the only thing how it makes sense, because otherwise, how would Stacy's car be parked at Suzanne's place even prior to them deciding to go to Suzanne's place? It doesn't add up. So I'm assuming that both women were driving their cars individually.
Yeah. And it also makes even more sense for me that Suzanne parked in the circular driveway. Maybe it's because she didn't want Stacy's car to be just left alone there. Could it be a possibility?
I'm not sure about that one, because the general location, I think there's it's not like
Is there enough space in the garage?
there's not enough space, but I think that driveway was meant for parking cars. So I don't think it would be that strange for Stacy's car to just be left there. And I think Sherrill's car was at that circular driveway also. So that didn't seem to be something strange, the way I understood this case.
Yeah, so far for me, nothing's still as strange.
Let's move on.
Let's go.
There was also a glass on the porch. There was also glass on the porch of the house. So there's a porch leading to the front door of the house, and there was a lamp post that was shattered. So two of the friends that had came to the house in search of Suzanne and Stacy, they actually swept up the glass and threw it away, unknowingly throwing away potential evidence, which was misfortunate.
Definitely.
The front door was also unlocked, which was very strange, and no one really could explain why the door was left unlocked that morning. The lights were off, and the TV was on, but it was showing that snowed motion, if you know what I mean.
The shh.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Suzanne's little dog was also inside of the house, and the dog was freaking out.
Okay, now it's getting weird.
Inside of the home, there were no signs of struggle. Sherrill's bed was made. It's either she had made the bed or she never even went to bed that night. All of the woman's 3 purses were neatly lined up beside each other.
Definitely getting weird.
As the people inside of the house went through those purses, they found that Sherrill had a $900 deposit in her purse, which was not stolen. Sherrill's cigarettes were also left behind. This is strange, since Sherrill was a chain smoker, and she would not have left without those cigarettes. A phone rang inside of the home as all of the people were there. A stranger was on the other line when someone picked up the phone and made lewd comments of sexual nature, possibly a post-graduation prank, but still, it was kinda odd.
It's really odd given the circumstance.
No one had called 911 for quite a while. Instead, they waited for the women to come back home, and the people at the house proceeded to clean up the home, contaminating the crime scene. There were around 12 people at the house at this time. So, seems like no one really called the police for a bit, and instead they decided to clean the house. They were kind of assuming that all 3 women will just reappear, and while they were waiting for them to come back, they decided to clean up a bit. But 12 people were there, and seemingly they had completely contaminated the potential crime scene.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you also have to remember it's not intentional. I mean, those people are definitely caring people, caring for the 3 women, Sherrill, but it's just unfortunate.
That's true. Sherrill's house phone rang again. This time, the people inside had let the answering machine pick up the phone call. It was a stranger on the phone. The phone call was very rude. It was another lewd, sexual natured phone call. And this phone call was captured on the recording, on the answering machine. However, since someone believed it was another prank, they just accidentally somehow deleted the phone call, which law enforcement said it was quite unfortunate because they wanted to listen to the contents of that phone call.
Oh my gosh, how tidy are these people? They cleaned everything.
It seemed, yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of potential evidence was definitely lost there. As nightfall was approaching, the people at the house made the call to law enforcement and reported the woman missing. Police were not able to collect any evidence from the house. No hair, blood, or any DNA was recovered. The lewd phone call that was recorded on the answering machine was also never recovered. Inside of Suzanne's room, police found devil worship content, which was some notes or books, I'm not quite sure, but that's what it was portrayed in the media. Police also discovered that Suzanne had previously dated a bad boy named Dustin Rekla. Dustin had been arrested a few months before the woman vanished for breaking into a mausoleum with a couple of his friends. They had taken gold teeth out of some skulls. Those friends said that other friends said that after that incident, Suzanne had broken up with Dustin since she did not approve of such actions. It has been speculated that this ex-boyfriend, Dustin, and his friends that had broken into that mausoleum with him, they may have been responsible for the woman's disappearances. Some people suspected that, since they may have assumed that it was Suzanne who actually reported the grave robbery to police and got them arrested and charged. And they may have assumed that Suzanne would testify against them in court during trial, which was just a few months away at that time. It's understandable so far, right?
Definitely.
What do you think about this person?
Dustin
Rekla.
Seems to be like a psycho.
A local psycho kid.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin and his friends were questioned by police, and they had denied involvement in the disappearance. Police say that without DNA evidence from the home, there is nothing to link them with the case. Some of the investigators, however, believe that Dustin and his friends should not have been cleared so easily. 2 weeks after the woman went missing, a person had called police and told them that they had seen what seemed like Suzanne driving a van on the morning that she had gone missing, 2 miles away from the home the girls went missing from. The van was an avocado-colored panel van. The witness reported that the person driving the vehicle looked like Suzanne and that she was scared. Also, there was a man at the back seat of the van who was screaming at her, threatening her that she has to keep driving or else. And we have a similar van to the van that was reported by that witness. Pretty strange. This reporting came 2 weeks after the girls went missing, but the witness said that she saw that sighting of potentially Suzanne on the morning when she went missing, 2 miles away from her home. Police actually thought that this could be a credible sighting. They even put a similar van in front of the police station to kind of try to jog some memories.
So far it makes sense.
Yeah, but nothing really came about from this van sighting. But yeah, please react.
So far it makes sense because she was seen the morning after they vanished. If it was 2 weeks, then it would be a little bit odd. But so far, it seems like it's going... Okay, my first reaction is it could be potentially the R word. I'm not sure if we could say it in YouTube.
Sexual assault, right?
Yeah,
okay.
SA.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm thinking it could potentially be that, plus they were also abducted. Initially, I thought they were SA'd and probably dragged somewhere and put to rest there. But seems like they were also abducted. Pretty strange. What do you think so far?
So I would say let's go through some more information here because it might change your opinion once more.
Of course, sorry.
No, but this is good. This is good that you're already kind of thinking about it. So bizarre theories started coming in, and all kinds of theories came in, ranging from space aliens to human trafficking angle. A friend of Suzanne thinks that the culprit or culprits may have known the woman because there were no signs of a struggle at the house or no forced entry visible. Robert Craig Cox is a man who is one of the most widely recognized suspects in this case. He has admitted to knowing for a certainty about that the women are dead and claimed their bodies would never be recovered. Robert Cox is the prime suspect in another case, a case of an 19-year-old Sharon Zellers who was murdered in December of 1979, which happened 13 years prior to the three women's disappearance. Sharon Zellers did not return home from her job in Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Her abandoned car was discovered in an orange grove the following day. Her body was discovered as well the following day, after the car was discovered. At that time, Robert Cox, this man who was a known, recognized suspect in the Springfield tree case, was 19. So as a 19-year-old, he ended up being the prime suspect in Sharon's murder back in 79. So far, you're following, right?
Definitely, but he just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah. Robert Cox was vacationing at that time with his family in a nearby hotel back in 79. On the evening that Sharon Zellers vanished, Robert Cox got into the hotel room. He was bleeding heavily and was on the edge of passing out. He was also missing the tip of his tongue. Later, he reported to police that he had gotten into a fight at a nearby Skate World skating rink building, causing him to bite his tongue and sever it. He claims that he got into his car after that fight, drove around aimlessly trying to find his way back to the hotel where he was staying with his family. He couldn't find that hotel, then he returned back to the Skate World skating rink where a stranger offered him a ride back to the hotel. Apparently, the stranger then dropped him off at the hotel, and Robert Cox just stumbled into his parents' hotel room. He was bleeding profusely and the tip of his tongue was also missing from that fight. Apparently there was so much blood that there was a blood trail in the second and third floors of the hotel building. Despite this story that Robert Cox provided to law enforcement, his vehicle had no signs of blood, which was odd since he was bleeding heavily in the hotel room, so maybe he was never in the vehicle, maybe he was never even in the skating rink back in 79. Furthermore, when questioned, no one in that Skate World skating rink recalled him being there that day, nor a major fight happening, which Cox claims to have been a part of, and this fight led to him having that tongue injury. 3 hairs were found in Sharon Zellers' vehicle, who were very similar to Robert Cox's chest hair. Type O blood was also found in the car, which matched the blood of Robert Cox. The only problem here is that 45% of the global population has type O blood, but it at least confirms a matching blood type. Furthermore, a bloody military-style boot print was found in her vehicle, and Robert Cox was an ex-Army Ranger, and he was wearing similar military boots at that time, which is kind of looking really bad for Robert Cox. On top of that, a medical expert came into trial, and he testified that the injury to Robert's tongue is more consistent with someone biting it as their tongue is in someone else's mouth, other than Robert Cox inflicting that injury on himself. Because how are you gonna bite your tongue so hard on your own that you're gonna sever it? It's kind of difficult and kind of hard to imagine. So it's looking bad for Robert Cox. Essentially, to kind of paint you a better picture here, this woman, 19-year-old Sharon Zellers, goes missing. Her vehicle and her body is found really close by to a hotel where Robert Cox was staying with his family. And on the same day that Sharon Zellers went missing, Robert Cox kind of came in to the hotel room and he was all messed up. He said it was a fight but no one could figure out where the fight happened. You know, like this is how they were kind of trying to pin that on him. So at one point he was actually charged for this case and he was sentenced to death. However, this was overturned because apparently the prosecution only had circumstantial evidence against Robert Cox, which was not enough to prove beyond doubt that he was the person responsible for Sharon Zeller's murder, even though he still, I believe, remains the prime suspect. He was cleared of that murder.
How many evidence do they need?
I think they need like DNA.
But what about the boots? The boot print?
The boot print was never actually matched.
The tongue?
The tongue was never found in the vehicle.
The hair?
The hair matched the hair, but I don't think they can definitively prove that the hair was actually Robert Cox's hair. It was indistinguishable from his chest hair, but it wasn't proven that it was his hair.
Oh, this is just frustrating.
It's frustrating, but
Like it's so obvious it's him.
It looks like it's him. It really looks like he's the prime suspect, and there was no one else ever brought to at least the media's attention about who could be responsible for Sharon Zeller's 1979 murder, other than Robert Cox. So let's kind of circle our way back to the Springfield tree case, and I'll tell you how this man, who 13 years prior was the prime suspect in that case, kind of circles into this case, right? So once again, the evidence against Robert was only circumstantial and he was never proven guilty in the court of law to be connected to Sharon Zeller's murder. It's actually unclear at what time Robert Cox inserted himself in the Springfield tree case, but in 1997, Robert Craig Cox, while imprisoned in Texas as a convicted kidnapper and robber, because after the suspected murder of Sharon Zeller's, he committed kidnappings and later armed robberies that landed him in prison for the rest of his life. So as he was already in Texas, and he was a problematic person, he started inserting himself somehow in this Springfield tree case on his own accord, as I understand. Maybe to gain media attention, to gain notoriety. I don't know why he was doing that, right? But sometime, I believe it was in 1997, while imprisoned in Texas as a convicted kidnapper and robber, this man, Robert Craig Cox, who was still a suspect, the prime suspect, as I assume, in Sharon Zeller's murder, told journalists that he knew that the three women involved in the Springfield tree disappearances had been murdered and buried, and claimed that their bodies would never be recovered. And that's all we have. He didn't really speculate any more information. He said that I will not release any more information about the case until my dear mother passes away. He was making all kinds of strange kind of comments. He never really gave anything concrete to law enforcement. But this is where you might change your mind about Robert Cox. Hear me out. In 1991, a year prior to the three women going missing in Missouri, Springfield, Robert Cox had returned to Springfield, which is his hometown. He grew up there after being released from prison, because at that point in 1991, he was released from prison for serving, I believe, a 7-year sentence or like a 9-year sentence for kidnappings in California.
He kidnapped someone and only served 7 years?
It was... I don't know. It wasn't like I don't think he killed those people, and it was more of a threatening others at gunpoint to do what he's gonna to do what he
Oh, this is just so frustrating.
So yeah, it's really frustrating, right? So he returned back to Springfield in 1991. Right? So it was rumored, but it was never proven, that he worked at Stacy's father's car dealership, but we have no proof. It's just a rumor. So we have to take this with a grain of salt, that he allegedly worked at Stacy's father's car dealership at that time. There's no proof of that. It is suspected that maybe he somehow was aware of Stacy because he was working for her father's car dealership and somehow followed Stacy to Suzanne's home on the night of the disappearance. Robert's girlfriend gave him an alibi for that morning of the disappearance. She told police that the two of them were at church. However, sometime later, I think some years later, she recanted her statement and told police that Cox told her to say that. And the girlfriend now says that she has no idea where he actually was on that day.
Of course. She's a girlfriend. She would cover up for him.
And Robert Cox looks like a scary person who would intimidate the girlfriend.
Exactly. And the fact that it was rumored that he worked for Stacy's father at a car dealership, however, there's no proof. There was also no proof that he actually SA'd and killed, who was the lady again?
Sharon Zellers.
Yeah, Sharon Zellers, but he obviously did.
I mean, it's never been proven in the court of law.
Okay.
But he is the prime suspect.
Yeah, it's so obvious.
From what we can tell. Yeah, very, very crazy. And this is where the case kind of now goes into a little bit of a paranormal angle. Because, yeah, get this. This is not where the Springfield tree case ends. Now we're going to jump into a paranormal angle.
I love paranormal angles, but at this point, I'm just so freaking annoyed at Robert Cox.
Yeah. So
it's him.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay, but hear me out. Kathy Bayard, a local journalist in Missouri Springfield, she got a tip that the three women were buried beneath the south parking garage at Cox Hospital. It's not related to Robert Cox. This hospital is just that the last name Cox is used in like 3 different occasions in this case. There's a hospital named Cox Hospital, okay? It's just a weird coincidence. Anyways, so now this woman, Kathy Bayard, we don't know exactly whom she got this tip from, but she got a tip that the 3 women are buried under the Cox Hospital, which at the time of the women's disappearance back in 1992 was still a dirt lot because that hospital was not yet built, if that makes sense. She then proceeded to hire a man who used a ground-penetrating radar capable of finding graves hidden under concrete. And during the search, 3 anomalies were found roughly the same size as a gravesite location. And we have some images where this is at. So it seems like it's some sort of a parking underneath of a parking lot area of a hospital building. And below we see some radar scans of some anomalies that the person who was running the tests claimed that this kind of looks like a gravesite. You can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Springfield Police Department spokesperson Lisa Cox, once again, just a weird coincidence.
Oh, geez, how common is this last name?
Yeah, especially in that part of town, a very common occurrence seemingly, said that the person who reported the tip provided no evidence or logical reasoning behind this theory at that time or since then. She also said that the parking garage began construction in September of 1993, 1 year after the women's disappearances, which would be kind of strange if the women were there, because this woman, from the spokesperson Lisa Cox, claims that during the preparation of the site to build the parking garage, they would have to excavate the area, and that's how the bodies would have been unearthed, before the construction even began of that parking lot. And she also said that digging up the area and subsequently reconstructing the structure would be extremely costly, and without any reasonable belief that the bodies could be located there, it is illogical to do so. And for those reasons, the Springfield Police Department does not intend to do so. Investigators have determined this lead to not be credible. Darrell Moore, a former assistant at the Greene County Prosecutor's Office, said that this tip came from someone who either claimed to be a psychic or claimed to have a dream or a vision about the case. So some sort of a psychic contacted the local journalist, told her that their bodies are underneath the Cox Hospital parking garage structure. The journalist then hired a man who can use ground-penetrating sonar, and he found the 3 anomalies. And this is how this whole thing played out. What do you make of this? It's just bizarre, another bizarre angle in this case.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre, and it's actually not quite believable for me, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past Robert Cox to do some digging and to lie through his teeth. He could have done it.
Mm.
Or maybe some other people did, but right now I'm just so frustrated at him that I really think he did it.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right.
Because why would he say that statement?
He's already serving a life sentence.
Hmm.
There's no reason for him to not say it. And there's no reason for him to say it. But you get my idea here.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I would like to take a quick break. And we will be back in a few moments to kind of try to figure out what is happening in this case in our humble opinions. All right, we are back from the little break. And the first question that I have for you, Rain, in your opinion, why was Suzanne's car parked not in her usual spot? Was someone already at the house that evening when the two women returned from that sleepover?
I don't know. It seems like... I don't think it's that suspicious, actually. Thinking about it, it was 2 a.m., 2 girls, 2 different cars, and there was only like one spot in the garage. I would see it more of a like, okay, we're gonna go in the morning. Might as well park here where it's easily accessible and we could just drive out immediately. Both of us. So in this scenario, those cars parked in the middle of the driveway doesn't really bring any suspicion to me. How about you? What do you think?
Fair enough. To me, I was thinking that there could be a chance that someone is already parked there in that location.
And they just ran inside?
And they had already potentially, somehow taken a hold or subdued Sherrill. And as the 2 girls walked in, that's when they potentially subdued them as well.
Or could it potentially be that the girls sensed something wrong in the house? They ran inside, knocked off a lamppost, that's why it was broken, and met with trouble inside the house.
Yeah, that's my second question. What do you think happened with that lamppost? So another theory that I think was circling around somewhere is that maybe as the girls were already inside of the house, all 3 women were inside of the house, someone in the middle of the night broke that lamppost in order to kind of lure them out.
To open the door. And that's how they would be able to gain access into the house without any forced entry. And then maybe potentially at gunpoint, they would have controlled them. That is very true. That's a very good point.
Yeah, another thing I want to ask you about is that there seemingly were no signs of foul play inside of the house. How do you take 3 women out of the house without any foul play?
As you mentioned,
it's strange.
Yeah, as you mentioned, gunpoint, easy.
At gunpoint, you think it's a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, something scary enough that the dog would be spooked.
Yeah,
because the dog was there.
Dog was freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the next question would be leading into here, how would a culprit control 3 women and move them from the house? Perhaps the culprit or culprits were already at the house before Suzanne and Stacy made their way to Sherrill's home. That's like the thing that I keep coming back to, that I do think that there is a chance that maybe another car was already parked there. Maybe this could be disproven, I just don't know all of the information, but that's just something that I keep circling back in my mind. And also I'm thinking that maybe someone had taken control of Sherrill before taking control of Stacy and Suzanne after the fact. The only thing that I didn't really find is that did Suzanne inform her mother at 2 a.m. that she will be coming back home instead of that sleepover? That's the only thing that I was kind of thinking about. But at the same time, since everyone already knew to go to Sherrill's home that morning, I think that there could be a chance. Even Stacy's mother Janice knew to call Sherrill's home, so somehow Stacy must have informed her mother Janice that she's going to be spending the night at Suzanne's home. So I'm thinking there is a chance that maybe Suzanne also somehow informed her mother Sherrill that she will be back home. But if that was the case, then that would kind of put a wrench into this whole theory that, Sherrill was already held at gunpoint in the house, just waiting for the two women to appear. It's strange. I just don't actually know how this could play out.
But then again, it was the middle of the night. And maybe she didn't call because maybe she was assuming, the daughter was already assuming Sherrill, her mother, was already asleep.
Yeah, potentially. And potentially, yeah, I'm not even going to go in that route anymore to kind of speculate how that whole thing played. Oh, you want to say something? Add something?
No, I'm just really like confused, spooked out about the wallets, the ladies' purses. How come they're all like in one straight line beside each other?
Yeah, to me it always seemed like someone potentially ordered them. Put your purses here. Put your purses down.
Yeah, but how come? Like, why in that neat order?
Yeah, and would they leave that? Would they leave those purses in that neat order if everything was okay as soon as they came into the house?
Mm-hmm.
Would they do that? And maybe they would. Maybe they would. Just
being a girl, no.
Huh?
Talking from a girl's perspective, would I put my purse in a neatly order? No, I don't.
Yeah, but
No,
it's just you.
Possibly.
It's just you, though. Okay, so the multiple strange lewd phone calls that were made in the morning, do you think it's a red herring or do you think it has a connection to the disappearance? Is it just a coincidence?
I do think it's connected. Mainly because 3 women disappeared out of thin air. All the purses were there. Money was there. Nothing seemed to be stolen. So there must be something other than robbery.
And then you think that someone's just taunting the victim's friends?
Possibly, yeah. What do you think?
I think that's a bit too risky.
Was it?
From a culprit's perspective. I just don't see that they would be doing that. But I don't know. I really don't know. We don't know because law enforcement said that those phone calls were interesting, and it's unfortunate that they got deleted.
That's true, because if we're actually talking about a real psychopath, it's possible that that psychopath will do that to taunt the police. But if it's just a regular person who just did something bad, yeah.
Yeah, because nothing ever came out of that matter anymore. Like, if you are taunting the police here, maybe you would taunt them again somewhere. But it never really happened again. And this was a graduation thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, Suzanne was a popular girl in school from what I was able to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense that someone wanted to call Suzanne in the morning and do some lewd sexual content natured phone call as a prank to Suzanne. Like, I could see that being a situation. Like, it makes sense in my opinion.
That's true. Kids,
yeah, high school kids. That makes sense.
I'm wondering if there are tire marks outside though.
Oh, I don't have this information.
Yeah, because if someone actually took them and drove away, there could have been tire marks, right?
Yeah.
Probably overlooked.
Or there weren't any.
Yeah.
Do you think that the devil-related content that was found in Suzanne's room is a red herring? It was briefly mentioned in one of the news kind of videos from Crime Watch Daily, but it was never really emphasized anywhere else. So I never really took much thinking about that devil-related content that was found in Suzanne's room.
Yeah, I think it's a red herring. Kids being kids. I remember my brother used to do the same thing. But it was nothing. It was just a face.
Yeah.
And Suzanne was dating a bad boy who literally went to the cemetery to rob gold teeth. And I don't know, it seems just somehow related to that, being a bad girl, popular girl.
Yeah.
Trying to be cool, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I also think it's a red herring.
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought much anything of it. Do you think that the sighting of Suzanne driving a van on the morning of her disappearance was a positive sighting? And if it was, then how would that scenario play out?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I do think it potentially happened. Possibly she was held at a gunpoint. So she's driving that van somewhere else, and maybe the girls were also in there.
So if the sighting was positive, why do you think that Suzanne was actually driving? If someone had already taken a hold of them, wouldn't it make sense for Suzanne also to be somewhere in that panel van? Why would she be driving it? Just wondering, why would she be the one driving it? Wouldn't she just also be, immobilized essentially and would be in the back of the van?
Yeah, I have no idea how to answer this question. It just seemed like that insight, that particular witness statement seemed to be real, logical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's logical. Like, could it have happened? Yes. Like, it doesn't break any logical rules.
Yeah.
In this scenario.
But the reason,
the likeliness,
no clue. Yeah,
it's unknown. Do you think that Dustin Reckler could be involved?
I have no idea.
Do you think that he would proceed to kidnap, potentially get rid of 3 women just to avoid a grave robbery charge, which probably is not like life-ending charge? The golden teeth were worth like $30, so it wasn't like he did the heist of a century there either. I mean, it is pretty terrible, and it will be in his record forever. But at the same time, is it motivation enough to commit such a crime?
I don't think so, actually. Now thinking about it, it seemed like if there was robbery involved, because he had a history of robbery, and as a kid, he would steal from the graves $30 golden teeth, and there was a $900 in one of the ladies' pockets.
And for me also, yeah, exactly.
Isn't it convenient for him to
take the money?
Yeah, exactly.
Take the money, exactly. And on top of that, it's for me hard to believe that a 19-year-old kid would pull off this whole crime.
Yeah,
which
that's
just
true.
seems like very difficult to do.
And spook a small dog.
Yeah. Do you think that Robert Cox could have been involved? He had military training. He was already charged for kidnapping and using deadly weapons to subdue victims, even before the disappearances happened. Allegedly worked with Stacy's dad. Do you think that Robert Cox could be somehow involved here? Other than that, nothing really connects him. There is some information that is really unverified that he was living very close, but I could not verify that. And it's already a rumor that he worked with Stacy's dad, which could maybe not have happened. And the only thing that really connects him is that he inserted himself, as I understand, in this case. I don't know if he's ever been looked at as a suspect. Potentially he was, but the information that I have is that he inserted himself here with those comments. And he's already serving a life sentence as he is inserting himself into the case.
What about Stacy's dad? Was he interviewed? Was he ever interviewed regarding this? Did he ever provided a statement?
So I don't have this information, but that's a very good thing that you said. Maybe Stacy's dad probably knows this.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only person who could either confirm or deny. One look at Robert Cox could be familiar. If he was familiar, then we have our answer, and if he's not, then something.
Yeah, we don't know what kind of work he did there either.
Exactly.
Maybe it was some sort of uncontracted work that was never really documented. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Something like undocumented employment or something. So we don't know. And the last thing I would like to ask you is, what do you make of that whole Cox Hospital tip, where the guy with the ground penetrating radar found the 3 anomalies? And that whole tip came of someone who apparently had a dream or was a psychic that the women are buried there.
I'm just concerned about that person who gave that tip. If they actually received or had that dream, why weren't they interviewed? Because it could.
So they were asked by law enforcement, I think, but law enforcement said that they were talking to a psychic, and they had a dream.
Oh, so it wasn't someone completely suspicious.
Not that I can understand it. On top of that, law enforcement said that they don't have any logical reasoning to proceed with this. I remember the first time I ever talked about this case on Solvable Mysteries podcast, the previous podcast, and then I remember somehow thinking that I really want them to excavate, but now I kind of think that it's, not the most logical thing to do. I remember back in the day I was thinking, this could be it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know anymore. To me, it seems like it could be obviously it would be good to
just
check.
to have an answer.
Didn't have an answer, of course, but I can understand law enforcement not proceeding
Probably
with this.
too costly.
Yeah. It's a hospital building, you don't want to potentially damage a hospital.
Exactly.
Could potentially have even bigger problems. Okay, so another last kind of thing that I saw someone write online that kind of got me thinking as well. Sherrill Levitt, the mother of Suzanne, she had recently moved into her home.
Recently? Oh yeah, because of the divorce.
Right. And, someone said online that maybe the prior owners of the house may have been the targets. Maybe Sherrill and Suzanne and Stacy were never the targets to begin with. What about the prior owners of that house? And I don't think this has been really investigated that much. Potentially, and it could lead to nothing because we don't even know who they were. But that just someone mentioned it online and I decided to kind of write it down and also think about it a little bit. What about the previous owners of the house?
Potentially, but I don't know, it just doesn't make much sense. Like whoever the attacker was, if they're actually targeting the previous owners, it's just a little bit of a dumb move on their end to just see, someone else is living in this house, might as well go for it.
Yeah, because it seemed like everything was done with precision. This abduction and crime seems like, and if you're gonna have that precision, you would know that the previous owners are already not there anymore.
Yeah.
So that just thought, and at this point, I would say we kind of went through everything that I had here.
No, 1 second.
Of course.
What do you think about this whole case so far?
I really don't know what to think about it, honestly. It seems like Robert Cox could be potentially involved here. I really don't know what to make of it. I really have no idea. I think that maybe, rationally thinking, I do think that maybe it was someone close to the women, close to Sherrill or Suzanne, or maybe even Stacy, but I'm kind of thinking that it could have been Sherrill. I do think there's a chance that maybe somehow that person was already at the house. I mean, someone could potentially disprove this, but I didn't find this information to disprove it, so maybe someone was already at the house. I think it was someone that they knew. Someone that they were at least aware of. Maybe in the neighborhood someone, or someone from work, or some relative, or I don't even know. Like, I'm thinking that it was someone that they knew. I think that a lot of the information is changed. I think that whatever happened pretty quickly because the house was left unlocked. The TV was still left on. The dog was spooked out. So there must have been some sort of a commotion, because why would the dog be spooked out if it was just a casual walkout? So I think maybe some sort of an incident did occur in the house because of the dog, but it's hard. It's really hard, and I really have no idea.
Do you think it's possible that there were evidences left in the crime scene, if only it wasn't cleaned out?
Yeah, I think so. I
like
think
blood,
hair. I think something could have been recovered.
True, that's true.
Something could have been recovered, in my opinion. But what do you think?
I think so. I think we would have more leads if only the crime scene was not cleaned thoroughly at that, it seemed like. And if only that phone call was not deleted, phone calls weren't deleted. And I don't know. I don't think it's someone that they knew, possibly because that freaked out dog was tipping me off.
Yeah.
It seemed like, I don't know, seemed like probably like a huge guy or men came inside the house, completely scared the girls and the dog was left there shaking.
Yeah.
Or yeah, you're right, maybe it's also someone they knew, but there was some sort of commotion, shouting, screaming.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. But no neighbors noticed it, right?
It's a very strange location where the house is at.
Mm-hmm.
It really only has, from the Google Maps, only one neighbor across like the fence. And across the street, it's like this big business center location that really doesn't tell us much, and probably on a Sunday night was completely empty, because it does look like some sort of a business center or like an office buildings type of a thing. And on the other side of the fence, there was another business kind of a location, almost looked like, as far as I remember, like a storage kind of facility. Definitely didn't look like a residential building. So they only really have one neighbor across the fence. They don't really have the other stuff that's there is like kind of businesses.
That's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it doesn't look, there didn't seem like there was a lot of neighbors around, especially at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's really hard. This case is a mystery. And hopefully we'll get some more information. I've seen some news coverage on it, and I think law enforcement is definitely working on it. I think in Springfield, Missouri, this case is one of the most famous and well-known cases, cold case, but still keeps working on. Police is still getting tips.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to keep our hopes up that maybe one day we'll know what happened.
Definitely. Hopefully one day we'll know everything.
Yeah, let's just kind of hope for it, and hopefully we kind of brought some more attention to it. And yeah, maybe someone in the comments can share some thoughts of the audience members, and we will keep you guys posted if we hear something else about this case, or if there's something that's kind of worth talking about again. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to this podcast, and we will
see you very soon.
Yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you guys, and bye.
Bye.